Brainstorming. It's the type of meeting where the main goal is to generate ideas. It's commonly used in problem solving and product design, but it's useful anytime you need a fresh take on something. I once worked at a newspaper and we used this technique to come up with catchy headlines. Another time, I was working on a waste reduction project within IT services, and quite simply, we had run out of ideas. But after a healthy brainstorming session, we were able to revitalize the project that ultimately resulted in $7 million dollars in savings in that year's budget. So, anytime you and your team are trying to resolve issues, find ways around obstacles, think outside the box, or just come up with new ideas, brainstorming is a great tool to have in your toolkit. In my Udemy course, How to Have Better Meetings, I cover basic principles for running good meetings. The course focuses on those team and staff meetings where you're trying to figure out next steps and make decisions on things. But these principles can pretty much apply to about any meeting, and it's true for brainstorming as well. For example, in brainstorming, like in any other type of meeting, you want to state a clear goal for everyone to rally behind so everyone's on the same page. You want to invite appropriate people that are going to help you reach that goal that you've stated. And of course, you need to have the skills to keep the meeting on track and on time. So, first, this goal. In brainstorming, it's often referred to as the problem statement. It's the problem we're trying to fix or the issue we're trying to resolve. It's a statement or question that's going to spark the idea generation. It needs to be fairly specific, but not so detailed that it kills any chance of creativity. At the newspaper, uh, our goal was fairly clear. We were just trying to come up with eye catching headlines that will get people to actually read the articles. And in the waste reduction project, that was also fairly straightforward. How might we reduce waste and inefficiencies within the IT services department to find savings in the current year budget? Sometimes these statements can be obvious and pretty easy to come up with. However, in some situations, like in product design, coming up with a problem statement may just be one step in a much more complex procedure. A team might first think about their customers and users, and then gather data about those customers and users, and then analyze the data, and then consider various problem statements based on that data, then rate the problem statements, then have brainstorming sessions on the top problem statements. It really depends on the complexity of the situation and what you're ultimately trying to accomplish. The next principle is to invite the people that you need in order to reach that goal that you've stated. And if you're inviting the same people you always invite, there's a pretty good chance you're going to come up with the same ideas. So, this is an opportunity for you to branch out your network a bit. You can invite colleagues or subject matter experts from other areas, and especially if those areas are impacted or potentially impacted by your project or whatever it is you're working on. You can brainstorm with two people, and sometimes that's all you need. But for a wide range of ideas, you're probably going to need to invite a wider range of participants. I try and limit it to 20 people. I know people that do more, and that's fine. But for me, I find if it gets much more over 20 people, it's a little unwieldy and harder to include everyone. If I want input from a larger population, I might consider doing a survey or a questionnaire instead. And it's not always possible, but if at all possible, I try and avoid inviting bosses and upper management. This can intimidate the other participants. Um, that someone might be hesitant to speak truthfully in front of the boss, that they don't want to disagree with them or sound foolish in front of upper management. I remember one brainstorming session I was in, it was led by the director of the organization. And within a few minutes, it became pretty clear that the meeting wasn't about innovation. It was really some game where everyone was trying to figure out, well, what does the director want? It was more of a let's make the boss happy session than a true brainstorming session. But sometimes you actually want input from those people, from the bosses and upper management. They're your stakeholders, they're your subject matter experts, they're the people that you need to hear from. So if I'm worried that other participants might be intimidated by the upper management being there, I might do something like have people submit their ideas anonymously. Then we're truly only discussing the ideas and we're not influenced by who made it. And post it notes are great for doing this. And they're great for brainstorming in general, especially if at some point you start to categorize ideas. It's easy to move around with post it notes. If you've written on a whiteboard or flip chart, it might not be so easy. And you don't need to limit yourself to the physical world. There's lots of software out there in the virtual world that can help you. Um, you could do a basic brainstorming session with a Zoom whiteboard if you needed to. But there's collaboration software like Trello and other software like Miro where you can really replicate virtually what a brainstorming session is like. Something else you should consider is the work culture, the environment that you're in. Brainstorming sessions are essentially an exercise in free association. And for that to work, everyone needs to feel comfortable, needs to have a sort of fun atmosphere, be non judgmental, and a blame free environment. Nothing shuts people up like having an idea shot down in front of all their colleagues. In brainstorming, there are no bad ideas. Even Alex Osborne, the father of brainstorming, listed this concept as one of his core principles. Wildness is welcomed. The crazier the idea, the better. It's easier to tone down than to think up. But even if you do work in a blame culture, you can still take measures to make the conference room, the meeting room, a safe place. I usually start with ground rules. I might say something like, you've all been invited because of your areas of expertise and specific point of view. So I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you before the end of this session. And it's at this point, at the beginning of the meeting, when I'm stating the ground rules, I also set the expectations for how things are going to work. Do I want people just to shout out their ideas or wait to be called on, write them on post it notes? We're going to break up into groups or work together. It depends on the situation how you do it, but however I decide to do it, however you decide to do it, give people a heads up of how it's going to work. There's an old joke that there are two reasons a brainstorming session can fail: a bad facilitator or bad participants, and both are the facilitator's fault. This might not be completely true, but it is true that a good facilitator can make or break your brainstorming session. And if you want to participate in the idea generation, you're probably going to want to ask somebody else to facilitate the meeting. Facilitating is a big job, and trying to juggle both roles is a little bit much. And plus, you might start showing favoritism over your ideas or the ideas you like. And clearly, a good facilitator should remain neutral. And since a fun, open environment promotes creativity, a little bit of praise for those first few ideas can go a long way. Some of you might remember that viral video from a few years ago where one guy started a dance party at an outdoor concert. It was even featured in a TED Talk by Derek Sivers. The guy got everyone else to join in on the dancing by engaging with those first few people that stood up. He sent the signal to everyone else, it's safe to participate and no one's going to make fun of you. Or as Alex Osborne put it, creativity is so delicate a flower that praise tends to make it bloom, while discouragement often nips it in the bud. Any of us will put out more and better ideas if our efforts are appreciated. A big part of the facilitator's job is managing the room. You might have some participants that are dominating the conversation with their ideas, and that can be great to get the flow going at the beginning, but at some point, you're going to have to move on to some other people. So you might have to say something like, Scott, those are some great ideas. Thank you. Paula, what are you thinking about? You're not putting them down or telling them to shut up. You're just giving someone else a chance to speak. I also look out for those quiet ones. I might say, Joe, we haven't heard from you yet. Do you have anything to add? If he doesn't have anything to add, I don't stay there. I don't try and embarrass him. I move on to somebody else quickly, but I at least give him a chance to speak. The main thing I'm trying to do is keep everyone focused on producing ideas, keep everyone focused on the goal, keep the atmosphere light and fun, include everyone or at least as many people as possible, and of course, wrap everything up on time. And like anything worthwhile, it might take a little practice to get good at it, but the next time you need some fresh ideas, think about having a brainstorming session.